Alright, so we're gonna react to one of Destiny's videos. I'll probably be doing more in the future. I don't always agree with him, but I like watching his videos. I think I do agree with a lot of what he says, but I feel like even the stuff I don't agree with, he has very good arguments for it, and he's just really good at debating, so I like to watch his videos a lot.
Are unsatisfying, even if they might be the answer, and it's way more satisfying to think like Jewish boogeyman uses Holocaust to get all of us to destroy society. Like, that's a really fun, it's cool, it's sexy, it makes you feel like you have access to some special information, but at the end of the day, it doesn't get you any closer to solving any problem whatsoever.
I know what you want me to say. I know what conspiracies you want me to peddle. That maybe disproportional numbers of people in certain positions in Hollywood or banking or whatever are Jewish. Doesn't seem like something worth moaning about to me. Because to me, it's like moaning about the fact that most coal miners are men. There are discrepancies in race, religion, gender, in almost every profession in the world. The Jewish question, and when people ask me to talk about it, is something along the lines of, well, they secretly control the world and they're keeping all of us down and blah, 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 blah. Here's why you could take your Jewish question, shine it up real nice, and stick it up your little racist butthole. I'm going to tell you why. Because I don't actually give a fuck if there were a secret cabal of Jewish people controlling the world, or a secret cabal of black people controlling the world, or a secret cabal of cisgender white men controlling the world, or a secret cabal of Mexicans controlling the world. I don't care. And I'm going to tell you why I don't care and why you shouldn't care. You shouldn't care because I, Tristan Tate, was born as a mixed race man in the projects on a council estate in England. I lived in a homeless shelter for years, and I am now in the top 1% of the top 1% in terms of income bracket. I'm in a very high percent in terms of influence bracket. I have 37,000 people listening to me right now. A lot of you respect me. A lot of you care what I have to say. A lot of you want to listen to my opinions. Loads of you want to listen to my opinions about the Jewish question. Who cares? Stop caring. If you become a multi-billionaire and somehow Jews are messing with you, by all means, go on your stupid little crusade. But when you're living in your mother's basement and you're poor and you're broke and you have no money and no one cares who you are and no one cares what you say and you have no influence on the world, and why are you obsessing over the fact that some Jewish people hold positions of power in the world? Get over it and move on. That is my answer to the Jewish question. No, I am not.
There's been a lot of new stuff since the last time we spoke. A lot of stuff that we could talk about.
Yeah, sure. What's up?
There's a couple things that I have going on. I have Jesse Lee Peterson tomorrow, so I could ask you about that, about how to speak to him. There's also the Adam 22 blah, blah, blah thing that you already know about. Everyone's talking about that. And also Tristan Tate following you. And
Tristan messages me this morning, and he's like, hey, I didn't know that you thought I was guilty. And I'm like, yeah.
And also mentioning Nick and addressing certain groups of people and answering a question.
Yeah, whatever you want. Are you in LA now?
I'm back. I was in LA and then went to Thailand, went to Phuket for a while, just got back.
You're doing JLP, you're doing it remotely, or?
Yeah, I'll do a remote, but I wanted to do it in person, but I didn't know he was in LA.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, first, what do you think about Tristan? Did you see Tristan Tate's answering certain questions
about the Jew stuff or whatever?
Yeah, what's your take on that?
I mean, obviously, I agree.
You agree that it's not worth talking about, and you should just get money and go on dates?
There's almost nothing there. People that obsess over it are generally losers. They generally offer no good solutions or advice or things to live in life. Anybody that offers grand conspiracy narratives about how the world is run, it's usually disempowering as f***, and it's just annoying to deal with. And it's, I don't know. But obviously that's my take on it.
Well, I understand your point about the obsession thing. There are a lot of people that obsess over it, and usually the people that do don't have anything really going on, and so they get satisfaction from thinking that everything's out to get them online. A lot of them are nerds in their basement all the time, spam posting on cartoon accounts. But don't you think that I'm wondering what you think. Do you think it's important to talk about, if you're talking about the Matrix and controlling mechanisms, aren't those questions worth investigating?
No.
No, not at all.
I think there's a lot of important things to talk about in life. I think that the issues and problems that exist in life are usually, you need a pretty sophisticated explanation of them. Talking about like Jews or the Matrix is just a way to shortcut all of the critical thinking into putting all of the ills onto some external boogeyman. Like rather than saying, you know, like integrating certain minorities into the country is very difficult, or sometimes we might want to do things and they end up backfiring. Sometimes, you know, policy is really hard to write. Those answers are unsatisfying, even if they might be the answer. And it's way more satisfying to think like, Jewish boogeyman uses Holocaust to get all of us to destroy society. Like that's a really fun, it's cool, it's sexy, it makes you feel like you have access to some special information, but at the end of the day it doesn't get you any closer to solving any problem whatsoever, in my opinion, obviously.
Yeah, it's not very practical, like making it out of the Matrix and getting your money up and becoming self-sovereign and all that stuff.
Sure.
But I don't want to talk.
The problem, just I guess, like real quick on this, there's like two ways to view like the Matrix. So in one way, there's like the direction that like you, Fresh and Fit, Ryan Dawson, I guess are all in this direction, and then I think Tristan Tate is in another direction. In one world, the Matrix is like there's this system of people that are trying to disenfranchise men, delete masculinity, oppress white people, and they're doing so that they can leverage institutions like the banks and the WEF in order to enrich themselves while stomping on the necks of like all these other groups beneath them that might challenge them. That's like one version of the Matrix. I think that's what like your crowd in general kind of subscribes to. I think that the version of the Matrix that the Tates, or at least Tristan, would talk about is Tristan would say the Matrix are companies telling you to buy a product because it'll make you feel good. It's women telling you to be soft because that's what they want, even though they don't. And it's a thing that is leading to disempower people because instead of telling you the things you need to hear that aren't profitable, it's just products being sold to you by companies and feel-good slogans being given to you by people that don't know what it means to be masculine or be a man, et cetera, et cetera. That's like the quote-unquote the Matrix, I think, that like Tristan is talking about. So there's a huge.
It seems like you've lightened up to his point of view quite a bit, maybe because I've seen a couple of your interactions on Twitter, and it seems like you're even starting to agree with them a lot more. I'm wondering if you have shifted your perspective on the trafficking thing, or it's also interesting to me that he ended up following you after you for months on end said that he's a human trafficker and needs to go to jail.
No, I mean, there's always going to be things that they say that I probably agree with, right? There's going to be things that I say, things that he says that I disagree with. I still think they almost for certain are traffickers. But I mean, like I said, the caveat I always give is unless they lied in all of their YouTube videos, that's probably not true. But I mean, I told him as much personally.
Yeah, so that's one thing I do like about Destiny also is that he won't change or he won't lie about what he feels or his opinions. If he feels a certain way, he says it. But why he thinks the Tates are guilty of human trafficking is because of the video most of us have seen of Andrew Tate pretty much admitting to doing so. So if that's what those charges were based on, I might even agree with him. But they're trying to say the Tates, I think it was recently, like 2 years ago, a year ago, human trafficked women in order to make TikTok videos, which I just, there's no way I can believe that. Now, if the charges were from years and years ago when they both were running an OnlyFans business, I might believe it at least a little bit, but that the charges have nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with their OnlyFans or anything like that.
DMs too, where I said it's, yeah, I mean, obviously I think you guys are traffickers, but I mean, they should go to court, have their day in court, do their shit, but.
And he wasn't upset with you? He probably had a cordial conversation.
I mean, he was a little upset. I guess he didn't know that, but I mean, I told him and he said, well, we'll see what happens. I said, good luck in court. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Okay. Respect you sticking to that point of view even after that. What's your whole take on, well, how should I approach the Jesse Lee Peterson interview? That's like one of your most popular interviews of all time. And I think he's a really interesting guy. And I actually agree with him quite a bit. I posted this clip the other day from my No Jumper podcast where I was talking about how black culture promotes a lot of negative behavior. And a lot of times black people will drag black people down way more than they ever blame white supremacy for. For example, when you start to make it up in the world, or you start to speak properly, or you start to dress more respectably, black people will like use words like you're speaking white, or they'll bring you back down and say that you're a and all this stuff, say that you're simping for white people when you try to make it out of the, and you kind of see that response in the quote tweets. Everybody is saying like, oh, you can't speak on black culture if you're not black, blah, blah, blah. Why is he talking about this? He doesn't know about jazz. It's like, okay, first off, no black person, like who goes to jazz concerts anymore? Who listens to jazz? Who are all the top black artists? They're all, promoting murder. Sexy Red is like saying my coochie pink, my booty hole brown, Cardi, all the major black artists are promoting degeneracy, which is something that we all know, but when you talk about it, they immediately try to silence you saying you're racist. So I kind of saw a good response there, and I think that's something worth talking about. And maybe even something you agree about. I was listening to a streamer before you saying that you could tell somebody is racist right away, but people will call me racist for that, and I saw a lot of people upset with me and calling me racist, but I'm just pointing out something that if I was blacker, they would probably nod their head and agree with. When Ye talks about it, they say it makes sense, but when I talk about it in a room with Adam 22, they immediately say like, oh look, he follows Richard Spencer, he hangs out with Nick Fuentes, he's a white supremacist sympathizer, all this stuff.
Okay. When I say this,
I like Sneako too. I just think when he's arguing something, I think a lot of times he'll argue off of what he's heard other people say, like the Tates or the Fresh and Fit guys. And he does that without doing his own research and digging down to why he really believes or doesn't agree with those stances. I think if he would just take some more time to educate himself around what he's arguing, I think he would do a lot better. I do tend to agree with most of the things he says. I don't know. I think he's grown a lot too, because I just started watching some of Sneako's stuff, but seeing his older videos to his newer ones, I do think he's getting a lot better.
I'm not here to pass judgment one way or another, but when people have these conversations, there's just some things I would like them to be aware of, okay? For a long time, I would agree that to some extent rap is degenerate, right? Especially when we talk about early gangster rap, especially when we talk about Sad Boy, Xanax rap, all these rappers that die of drug ODs and all this shit. Like, there is an element to, you can even say there's an element to black culture that's degenerate, okay? That's probably true. Right?
There you go. Right.
Sure.
We agree on that.
Sure. Wait. Okay, yeah, but here's the issue, and this is what I wish when people have these conversations, these are things they need to keep in mind. Okay? One, the entertainment that you create is a reflection of the culture that you're in, right? It wouldn't make, like, there is no Ashkenazi Jew that makes a song called, like, police. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you feel that way about the police? If you're right? Well, unless you're talking about the Gestapo, right? So that's one thing. Keep in mind that the art and the media that you create, it's going to be a reflection of the environment that you're in. Now, if we look at the history of African Americans in the United States, the environment that they've been in for a long time has been, on one level, legally and institutionally, right? Or at the very legally, they were slaves. Okay. Past that, it was institutionally Jim Crow. Redlining.
I understand that,
right?
but then why is it that whenever a rapper starts to get out of that, even years after.
Hold on, real quick. I'll let you answer or ask her. I just want to explain this real quick, okay? Right? That for all these times, black people's culture in the United States, because of things that have been outside of their control, they've been relegated to really shit environments. And as a result of that, the media they've made has been some kind of reflection of that. Then there's also this kind of uncomfortable thing where we were very critical of black media is garbage. Black media is horrible. It's bringing down the black community. But then there's this uncomfortable trend of like, black people will create something that's disgusting. The blues and jazz, these bastardizations of European music, and then eventually white people are like, it was gross and we turned for it, but actually it's kind of cool. We're gonna take it, right? Blues, jazz came a lot of it from black players and fusion of their culture into European style music. They made something new and creative. We thought it was horrible, and then Elvis Presley comes out and does rock and roll. It's awesome. You go to jazz institutions today, it's all white people playing. It's awesome, right? And then something similar is kind of happening with rap. Rap is gross. Rap is disgusting. But if you go to any rap concert, 90% of the audience are white people. So while we're simultaneously criticizing the culture and saying it's disgusting, we're the main consumers of it. When I say we, I mean we as white people. So I'm just saying that collectively, when you take all of that account, I can see black people looking and be like, okay, you. You're saying that our media is crap and we're ourselves. That might be true to some extent, but it doesn't keep you from consuming it. You love buying it. You're our main consumers. And eventually you come by and you steal it, and you don't have any of the same criticism because there's not the same expectation for you as a white person to uplift your culture. Whereas every single rap artist that becomes famous is expected to be some representative, some Malcolm X, some MLK that's supposed to uplift all those people, when they might just want to make media that reflects their environment and they just want to make money like any white person would. But there's a whole
right. I'm not arguing that. Of course, we all know that white kids love to consume the stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Just
see how he can just take these topics and go off like that. I mean, I wouldn't really want to debate him because I feel like he would beat me in the debate even if I was 100% right and he was 100% wrong. He's very articulate.
The aesthetic is sexy. There's murder, all this stuff, the twerking, all that stuff. Like, obviously that's attractive. That's why they keep making it. But the bigger argument is why, even when they're out of that lifestyle, like, yes, okay, some systematic oppression, they're from the hood, all this stuff, redlining, blah, blah, blah. We're victims. That's always the main black mentality in America, is that we're always victimized and white supremacy is holding us back. But how come when they start to elevate, when they start to get out of that, even years after they've been out of the gang lifestyle, that's all they know how to continue rapping about. That's all they know how to, even when they have nothing to do with it for years and years and years, the whole aesthetic, all of it is, they even will stay in the gang mentality. They'll be around that just so that they could keep that aesthetic going.
Because
they'll purposely surround themselves with that aesthetic and ideology and that lifestyle to sell more music. They won't live that whatsoever. They'll be at nice dinners. They'll be traveling the world. They'll be in private jets, and they're still talking about gangbang and GDK, GDBD, all this stuff.
Because your upbringing and how you get success is largely going to shape a lot of your life. You make money doing it, people want to hear it, and it's something that you carry with you forever, right? This is part of the criticism. I don't want to get like too much into the other stuff because I don't want to disagree too much, but like a lot of the things that red pillars say about how they move through relationships actually makes a lot of sense if you look at it through a poor lifestyle. When you talk about, like, for instance, a lot of red pillars, when you guys talk about how you manage relationships, when you say the man leads, one of the reasons why that you guys always give about men leading is if you get into a fight, if somebody breaks into your house, this is poor ghetto mentality, right? No middle class person is thinking like, I need to lead my woman for when I have to fight for her life, because middle class and wealthy people don't think that way. But even these red pillars that make like millions of dollars, when was the last time Myron got like jumped with a dude in a gun trying to kill him and his girlfriend, right?
Actually, that's not true. Recently they were at the restaurant after a show, and he had to protect everybody because he's always carrying a gun. And he said, like, everybody get behind me, because there was a fight that went on in the middle of the restaurant. So even when you start making money, that's all. There's always a risk. There's always a possibility.
No. Come on.
Well, yes,
it might happen every now. First of all, was this a random dude or was this like a fan or whatever, right? Like, and actually,
it was a random altercation at the restaurant. But when it does get down to that, it's always the man that has to protect. He's the one carrying the gun. He's the one who's the most.
What you're saying,
capable.
I understand what you're saying right now. This is broke mentality. This is ghetto mentality. Nobody in like the wealthy world thinks this way. You call the cops or you just leave. Nobody's thinking about like how do I need to move in case of a fight. Like nobody's building their life around these interactions.
Well, no, you're equating it to that he needs to get in a fight. He's the one carrying the gun. He's the one who's going to be most capable with a weapon in that scenario. He's going to be better at it than a woman in all scenarios.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying this is like 0.1% of what you're thinking about. But when you listen to red pillars, it's like 85% of like how the world is built is around surviving fights. Like, it's just most people just don't think about that, right? You spent some time in.
Yeah, I agree. I've started watching some of the red pill stuff. I got to it from watching the Tates, but I tend not to agree with most of it. I do agree with a lot of it also, I guess. And I do agree with, being a strong, high-valued man, working out, stuff like that. But then there's other stuff that just goes way too far that I just don't think is realistic. I mean, unless if you're a millionaire, like the people we're watching speak about it, maybe. But that's because they're a millionaire. And for all their fans watching it, that lifestyle isn't really possible for them.
Miami Beach, you've been in LA, like even in LA, like most places, This shit is not happening. I live in LA for 3-4 years. I've been to a ton of different restaurants. I've been in fucking weird places in Hollywood, homeless people. Like, I've been down in Miami Beach now. I go all over Brickell, Miami Beach. Like, it's just not something I think about. It's not. Yeah, I've had
It's
weird,
not ultimately, but the bigger point of it, it's not just about the fact that it's happening all the time, but it's just having that mentality will lead a better relationship. That's
sure. And I'm just saying that. Sure. All I'm trying to illustrate here is that, like, that is something that comes from a certain type of background, and it's carried through. Like, Myron, and maybe I guess even you, I don't even know, are going to carry this mentality with you for 10, 20, 30 years. But what I'm telling you is that other wealthy people are going to look at you like you're crazy. That'll never change. When you start saying things like, oh yeah, like if you're at a table talking to some wealthy folks that come from wealthy families, and you're like, I need to lead in the relationship. They're like, oh, well, why is that, Sneako? And I was like, what if somebody breaks in here and a fight breaks out? Like, everybody's going to look at you like you're crazy.
That's not the reason that I'm going to give in that scenario. It's because my woman is going to feel more safe and secure, and she's going to be able to be in her feminine more if I'm the one protecting and leading and I'm the masculine one. And there's a lot, that's just the most physical and the...
See, I do agree with that the man should be the lead in the relationship, just not as extreme as some of the red pill community can get about it.
Best example of it, like when a fight breaks out, but that's obviously not going to happen that much. The relationship's better when the masculine man is leading and the woman can be feminine. A woman can't properly be feminine if she's not in a safe environment and she doesn't feel secure. That's ultimately the reason for it.
Okay. That was just one example, but what else do you want to talk about?
The last one was, what do you think about this whole Adam 22 thing? He's, I've been messaging him back and forth for a lot of time, and people are making memes about, I saw a collage of like the four of us, like the Cut Coalition. I think it's funny. And Adam, I like the fact that he seems really happy with his daughter. He was traveling around Europe. He just got married. He was on his honeymoon. I see him like pushing his daughter in the swing. And then I go on his podcast and he's like, yeah, I just let my wife do a BBC porn. And I'm wondering because in my opinion, I like the guy, I really do. But he has all these Satanist stuff in his office. He has like the Antichrist tatted on his face. He says he's an atheist, but atheists always tend to embrace Satanism to some extent. I don't know about you. That's a bigger thing that we could talk about. But he seems to be coping now on Twitter. He seems to kind of be justifying it. And he's like saying that, I like this and it turned me on and all this stuff. But he's also like feeding into the trolls, and it clearly bothered by it to some extent. I'm wondering what you think about it.
I don't think he's bothered by it. I think he's bothered by how much other people are bothered by it.
Which is still bothered by it.
Well, no, it's bothered by other people being bothered by it, right? Like when somebody calls me racist, that upsets me. It doesn't upset me because I'm racist. It's upset because they think I'm racist, right? There's a difference there, right?
Okay, so you don't think that he cares at all?
I mean, they had a large conversation about it. If he didn't want her to do it, he could have just told her not to do it. No?
Yeah, he probably didn't care. He was probably okay with it at first, but it's gotta bother him after. I mean, I watched Sneako and Adam 22's interview, and I think it bothered him after the fact, but I don't know what he expected with other people commenting on it. He's famous. He had to have expected the onslaught of memes and comments to come after it. I don't know. I would never do that.
It's the whole thing doesn't make sense. It's like, if you're going to do it for money just so that you could sell some OnlyFans stuff, the guy's a multi-millionaire. You don't need to do this for money. It seems weird that he did that like a couple weeks after his marriage.
If you say multi-millionaire, I could be wrong. I doubt he's worth more than $10 million.
Especially right after they get married. I didn't realize that part. That's crazy. I don't know. To each their own.
Whatever, but there's no reason, like the thing like, oh, I'm just doing it for money is also cope, because you don't need to do that for money. That's the last thing.
Well, but it could be a fuck ton of money. This might be like, this is probably going to be the best OnlyFans.
Okay, but what is he going to buy? Like if he say he has an $8 million net worth, what could that's not going to give him a lifestyle upgrade whatsoever by, having his wife do BBC porn. What was your read on it?
If it 2 or 3x's her income, it could. I mean, it could change.
Okay, but
right.
What was your read about speaking to him about that? What I saw is like he seemed like it was making him uncomfortable, and I see it like in a couple months he's going to start regretting this and continue to try to justify it or go deeper down the porn rabbit hole. And also another moment that I had on the podcast was like, what are you going to do about your daughter seeing all this stuff? Because I like the fact that he's become a father and he seems like he's maturing, and he even said that having a daughter was way more fulfilling than the hundreds and hundreds of women that he slept with. And I'm like, that's good. He seems like he's on the right path. And then he does this. And then I ask him, like, well, how are you going to explain this to your daughter?
They already
and
did. He's already got a ton of tattoos. They already literally shoot porn. They do a podcast with women that they fuck afterwards, right? Is this going to be the thing that...
This is different. This is okay, but it's so even if it's not just about the difference that it has on the child, the perception is the biggest part about it.
The perception in these like really weird like red pill communities where you guys think it's okay for you to like step out on your woman, but it's not okay for the woman to step out on the guy. I think for most people
it's not red pill. It's just everybody.
No.
See, that's one of the things I do think, just in general, people view when a man cheats on a woman a lot less than when a woman cheats on a man. It's viewed as when the man does it, it doesn't really matter. That's one part of it I don't agree with. I'm married, so I mean, I don't think it'd be okay to cheat on my wife or vice versa. But I mean, like Destiny saying, they do porn. They have interviews with the women they do porn with. Is this really gonna be the thing that pushes it over the line? I doubt it.
That's red pill. That's only red pill.
It's not red pill.
Go and talk to any country movement. Men don't cheat on their wives, and it's okay. That's not true.
It's not.
That's absolutely true. I agree with Destiny.
Not about the in between the relationship is also public perception, because what I'm saying is that the kid is going to get bullied for this and it's going to come up, and what matters more than just like how the mother and father deal with it is public perception. So once the daughter sees that and sees like, okay, mommy got BBC'd, that's going to be different on the child's mentality than, okay, like they did some threesome porn. Both are.
How old is the child going to be before when she finds out about this? I highly doubt a 6-year-old girl is going to find out her mom was a porn star. You know, by time she's old enough to figure that out, however she finds out, I don't really think it'll be that big of a deal.
Bad, but one is completely different, because that's the type of that's the number one biggest humiliation ritual for a white guy.
Maybe if you're racist.
That's just true. I mean, it's the number one porn subject for white guys. It's always like black on white.
The obsession.
That is the number.
Like,
it's not an obsession. Look,
it is an obsession. The idea that like if my girl like,
well, it's a white guy obsession, but I am talking about public perception.
It's a black guy in red pill space. It's a black person obsession too. I think that if you were to poll the average red pillar and you were to give them a woman, you say, would you rather she like 5 black guys or 1 dog? I think they'd rather like or like 5 dogs or 1 black guy. I think the guy would rather take the doggy woman, like every time. Like the obsession with BBC and black guys white chicks or any chick is really weird, and that's true of like everybody in these red pill space, even black guys.
Sure, but you don't think that this is going to be a problem, because this is something that's completely new, where we're trying to normalize this. OnlyFans is one thing, which is also bad, and like Instagram pictures is another level, but something like this, what lasting effect do you think that this has on a child's mentality?
I don't think that. If you want to talk about what is the effect that doing like public like podcasts or porn has on a child's mentality, that's one thing to talk about. But like to separate.
Yeah, that's what I'm not understanding with Sneako. He's trying to say, he's almost saying that this girl's mom doing porn, well, it's bad, but because she slept with a black guy, it's even worse. I don't think that's the case. That's kind of a weird take, but I think all around, it's not good. You know,
it out like the BBC from everything else they do. I just think is really weird. But in terms of like the child's mentality, I don't know. It's probably gonna be rough. Any child with like a famous parent or a parent that does porn or whatever, there's probably gonna be extra challenges there that you've got to deal with as a parent, I would imagine.
What did you notice when you were sitting on the podcast talking about it? I'm seeing it's still gets brought up so much with you. That's
hilarious. Destiny on a podcast with Crit Mac.
Starting to die down more with me, but it's always going to be there forever. What was your read of talking to him about that?
It seems like he tried a thing for having his wife do some things. He's having like some feelings about it. Almost everybody does, women included, after threesomes. Like, you know, they start to feel differently about it once they've actually seen it. Who knows where he'll actually settle on whether or not he thinks it's okay to do in the long term or not, but that's probably something he's thinking about a lot, I guess, I would imagine.
Okay.
But
You don't
everybody
see-
has like feelings about like one of the most common like relationship enders for sexual things is like a woman is like, oh, I want to do a threesome, and then they feel good about it and they want to do it, and then they do a threesome with their boyfriend and they watch the boyfriend fuck another girl and like,
and she gets traumatized, right?
yeah, she's like, I don't think I like this at all. Yeah, but so I mean, it's common, it happens. Yeah. So he.
I see you're downplaying the public perception of it, because that is important. Whether or not it bothers you personally more, the public perception does matter quite a bit, right? Like a woman doesn't get humiliated the same way when she goes in a threesome and feels bad about it the same way a man does, because that removes your masculinity. For a woman, it might make her insecure, but that doesn't remove her femininity.
I mean, it's just going to depend on how secure they are in themselves. If you're secure in yourself, then public perception is who cares. Public doesn't live your relationships, you do. I don't know how Adam feels about his, but I would never let the public dictate to me my sexual activities or my relationship history. Because one, most of these people are virgins. And secondly, why would I let them? They don't live my life, I do.
So, do you think
Yeah, that's a good point. Who really cares what everyone else thinks?
that taboos exist for a good reason?
Some
I think
do.
that
Kids as a taboo is probably that's really good that's a taboo, but like having threesomes or doing things where all parties are consenting and like, I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. No, I don't think there needs to be a taboo around everything.
Right. So you think that trans women are women, all this stuff, and like gay, all the sodomy, all that stuff is good. What do you think? I've been having this discussion with people. I think people inherently know that incest is wrong or bestiality is wrong, right? Because it's unnatural. Like any sex that doesn't completely correlate to reproduction is wrong, right? That's what I believe. But I'm wondering what you think about that. You seem like to be okay with all this other, like the LGBT stuff, and
I'm with Sneako on that line. I think it should be man and woman. I don't think a woman can be a man or a man can be a woman. I don't think that. I know that it's not possible, and I think it's gotten way out of control.
mommy doing BBC porn. Do you think that it's morally okay to have sex with an animal?
Personally, wow. I don't really care because we already I mean, like we already torture and eat animals, which is probably more fucked up than fucking animal. But I mean, like anybody that fucks an animal probably has a whole bunch of other weird problems going on in their head, I would imagine. Like
it's okay. Like should bestiality be legal?
Yeah, I don't give a f.
Wow.
Do you think that torturing and eating animals should be legal?
I think that you should eat animals the halal way. They should be slaughtered. In Islam, we believe that you should only eat animals that are slaughtered the proper way. Where
I'm not talking about slaughtered. I'm talking about like hooking cows up to hormones and drinking milk or pumping things into things to make it beefier.
That's not okay. That's haram.
Okay, so you eat all factory farm shit and all that stuff?
I'm eating halal meat now, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah,
well, at least
so that's the proper way to eat it, because you need to add some moral to that. You think bestiality is okay, right? Okay, do you think that incest is morally okay?
The main problem with incest is usually intra-family dynamics are introducing a whole bunch of bad power stuff that makes it not healthy to pursue. So like older sibling, younger sibling is probably always going to be unhealthy. Parent-child is almost always going to be unhealthy. The issue with incest is that the internal family dynamics make it really hard for anybody to consent to any type of sexual relationship.
But what if we equate your same thing? Like what if you don't, because you're saying it doesn't matter about public perception. So if they're both adults, a son and a mother.
If you've got like two twin brothers that are like 27 and they want to college, then knock them out. I don't care. Go for it.
Wow. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like this is when I think
I'll be honest, that's kind of crazy to me. I don't know.
Atheists don't see that there's a soul involved, and committing these deviant acts starts to remove your soul from your existence. And when you start thinking that everything's okay, just because like you can justify it in a debate or something, there's some things that are just inherently wrong because deep down we know it. I think a lot of people even know this stuff without religion, but these are just wrong without debate, without discussion.
Sure. And I mean, like,
stuff like this, you can just point blank period say this is wrong.
Yeah, and I understand you think that, but the problem is at the end of the day, you're not even relying on your actual intuitions. You're going by the weird religious ones. At the very least,
that's not even before my reversion to Islam. I would tell you the same thing.
That's fine.
I was an atheist. Like I was a Reddit atheist too, and I would have said the same thing. Like, no, bestiality is wrong, and like why it just is. There's some things that are
that's
wrong.
Great. That's fine. I would rather use moral intuitions and reasoning to try to avoid harm for people, right? Like you can sit here and be like, oh my God, you feel this way about bestiality and incest and blah, blah, blah. But I think that the way that your movement views women is disgusting. Like it's worse than any amount of doggy or mother-son when they're both 30 or 40 years old could ever be, the way that you guys view and treat women. So, but I mean, like, you have like your feelings for that, and you
I could agree with that also to an extent.
think it's all internally justified, and the souls have men over women, blah. Well, that's
Do you
fine.
see how
I'm
you
not
just
sure thing.
equated men leading in a relationship, a red pill relationship to bestiality?
Hold on. I'm not equating any. What do you think equating means?
You're comparing it, and you're saying that it's equal and that one thing is worth.
What do you think comparing means? Do you think comparing means equating? Why would you compare two things that are equal?
Fine, maybe that wasn't the perfect word, but that it's insane to me.
It's not the perfect word.
God.
You're pivoting. No. The problem is you can't engage with what I'm saying.
You pivoted from bestiality to red pill relationships.
I didn't pivot. I showed you that you feel incredibly comfortable in your moral reasoning because of souls or intuition or whatever. And what I'm saying is I have other moral reasoning that takes that has a huge problem with some things you say about like women. You're sitting here focused on questions that don't really matter. Incest and
bestiality doesn't matter?
No, how many people are animals in the world? No, that doesn't really matter. But things like how we treat women, how we set up relationships,
it's not how many
those things
people
are
do
way
it.
more. No, it is about how many people do it. It's way more important.
You know, it's about the mindset of accepting that and accepting all types of sexual deviance. That's the biggest thing. Where we start to accept everything, and then the floodgates open, and then society crumbles.
Sure, and
if you think it's okay to have sex with the dog, then everything starts to crumble after that. You shouldn't even have to bring up statistics. Like, if people start to believe that things like this are okay, everything falls apart.
And it's funny because the thing that has led us into the
I think both their arguments right now are both correct. I mean, if in society incest and fucking animals becomes okay, we are more fucked than we already are. And also what Destiny is saying is also true, that the way these movements are viewing women is probably not the best either. So I'm not really sure why I don't really think they're arguing about anything right now.
first world hasn't been the reduction of incest and bestiality. It's been treating women like people. That's been the thing that's moved us into this world. So the ways that we view women and the ways that they move in society have been far more instrumental in getting us to where we are now than strong stances on incest and bestiality, which are niche issues that very few people actually care about.
No, the difference is we used to believe that men and women had different roles, that women were supposed to be at home raising the children. And now you're saying that treating women like people is treating them exactly the same as men, and that it doesn't matter who protects and provides, a woman can protect, because like how many scenarios are that going to happen? But ultimately we are different by design. God created us differently.
If a woman wants to avoid harm, what's like the number one thing she should do?
She should find a man who's going to be able to protect her.
Wrong. If a woman wants to avoid harm, she should be a lesbian, because the most likely person that's ever going to hurt you as a woman is your significant other. So you're defeated by the very thing you're saying. When you say men exist to protect women from who? Not from other women, it's from other men. So even your point doesn't make sense, right? It's not about treating women and men as equal. It's about granting them the same autonomy and letting them make the choices in society that are the healthiest for them, that they want to do the most. And when you leave these options up to women, then they start working more, they do other things, and your society gets better. Look at every single industrialized
I don't really agree with that on a larger scale.
country in the world. One of the hallmarks of success is usually women getting to vote, women having access to reproductive control, and women working jobs. It's like the best thing for your economy.
I don't think so.
Okay, if you think that, but
I mean, it's not that I think it, it's just, that's like the reality of the world. Every single successful country you're in, one of your biggest markers for economic development is whether or not women are working and have access to reproductive control, or are they just like slaves that are baby makers.
We're seeing all
maybe for the economy that might be best, but I think for the overall, for the overall betterment of the country, I don't think that's true.
all these countries that allow all this stuff and believe in all this feminist lie, we're seeing them all crumble in real time, and we're seeing them burn in the past couple of years. France is crumbling right now, one of the wokest countries in the world. 3 years ago, we saw all of America burn, cities burn because of all the BLM.
Yeah, so
look,
wait.
Countries where there's Sharia law.
Yeah.
Countries where there's Sharia law, and we say like, okay, not everything is up to the individual person based on whether they want to do it. There's some things that should be taboo, and we should not be allowed to do because it's better for everybody else. It's better because of basic morality. Those countries end up surviving. Those countries
end up surviving. Where did
countries with the top 3 lowest crime rates are all Middle Eastern countries.
That's
all
great.
Muslim
And
countries.
who invented the microprocessor? Who gave us YouTube and Facebook? Who landed on the moon? Who runs the world economy and world trade? Who dictates policy to every other free nation on the planet? Who don't?
Yeah, right now, and that came into play before all this new modern era thinking came into play, and now that it's becoming so ideologically insane, we are losing all that, and I truly believe we're gonna lose all of it. We're gonna lose the world currency status. We're losing respect day by day. So I don't think this argument is necessarily true.
Donates more to, like, it's not countries with Sharia law. And those countries Sharia law can only do because they're sitting on fucking mountains of oil, right? Like, you don't exist without the United States, and I don't either. And you're trying to give me this idea, like, well, Sharia law is good because we can make some women wear hijabs, and that's your marker for success?
You're saying, no, my marker for...
Also, France has
my marker of success is happiness.
France has a whole history of violent protests. That's what they do. They kill their kings, they set their shit on fire.
Has nothing to do. You see, you started bringing up all this and everything that happens to do with industrialized society and the invention of technology and trade. Like, that's not how I mark a happy society. The ultimate goal is happiness, right? Like, these things that your technological developments and stuff like that, you could argue that it's actually hurt happiness quite a bit. That isn't the ultimate marker of success.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Success, and
it's probably hurting us way more than it's helping us.
I didn't argue for that at all.
How are you finding happiness right now? You're getting on airplanes manufactured by Western technology, on your cell phone blogging, probably made by Apple or Google, it's uploading into social media networks that are ran by microprocessors, probably in an Amazon warehouse. Every single part of your life that you're enjoying right now, the women you can reach out to, the adventures you're having, all the learning that you're doing, this conversation you're having right now is built off of Western technology, not Sharia law.
Right. I use the technology that's here, but ultimately what makes me happy is my connection with God, is my relationships with people, is my
then
relationships with my family.
Then go do ayahuasca and Brazil and go crawl into the jungle for 7 years and do that.
That's some ayahuasca.
Is that
all
demonic
that,
now to you?
Stuff.
Okay.
That's the incest bestiality argument that you're making for. That's not what makes me happy. Those things obviously are fun and they give me access to people and I'm taking advantage of the industrialized society, but that's not what makes people happiest. It's its connection with the higher power.
Okay. I mean, that is one aspect, but I mean, like, loving God while you're starving or you don't have a computer can kind of suck in some countries. I think that all of the things that modern technology affords us, I think is really cool. I think that...
No, I think countries without all this modern tech and Wi-Fi, computers, I think they tend to be a lot happier than us. I think tribes that live out in the deserts or in the jungles that have access to none of this and you know, live kind of crazy from our perspective. I think they do. I think they tend to be a lot happier, a lot more comfortable with their lives than we do over here.
And not just cool in like a I'm browsing TikTok all day kind of way, but cool in that, like, if I'm on an episode of like Fresh and Fit with you, like that can only happen in the United States, right? You're some like Haitian immigrant, I'm like half Cuban, Myron is who the fuck knows where. Like, all these different people are brought together by all the traveling, all the technologies, all the thing in the country that makes that possible. It's only happening.
Dr. Squatch Star Wars, a new soul. It's here. The Dr. Squatch Star Wars.
The United States, right? Even in Dubai, where all that shit is happening now, it's people from the U.S. going there. Like,
should we legalize bestiality?
I don't know. I don't have a strong. I don't really care about bestiality. Is that all you think about is animals, or?
Well, I'm surprised on your take on that. The reason I bring it up is we're allowing so much sexual deviancy. We're starting to allow everything. And if you can't take a hard stance on that, then that changes my perception on your entire political view.
Yeah, I think you should fucking. I think it should be legal. I don't care.
I mean, you could deflect with humor, but
I'm not deflecting. It should be. As long as we can kill and torture animals, I don't know why you can't. Yeah, I don't care. Go for it.
Okay, so bestiality should be legal in Destiny's ideal world.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, and incest should be legalized.
I don't even know if incest is illegal. Most of the bad things that happen under incest are already illegal. I don't think it is in every state.
There should be no punishment. Okay, how about not even legally? There should be no shame. That's one thing that I've noticed traveling the world, is that there's an element of shame that keeps everything intact because people don't want to act. They don't want to past these taboos that have been instilled by society. Do you think that there should be no shame for
No,
incest?
I think for incest, probably there should be. Yeah, because most incestual relationships are really bad.
What if it's like two consenting while they're healthy and they like doing it? It's just fun.
Then
for
they
them,
can
right?
go for it. I don't care. Just like how
Go
Muslims
for it.
are okay with a 9-year-old, I think that
Okay,
incest
well-
is probably not the biggest deal in the world. I don't. If it's like two twin brothers in college each other, they can go have fun with it.
You see how you justify some sort of sexual deviance and you equate it to consensual marriage.
I'm not thinking of like sexual deviance in some spiritual plane. Usually what I'm thinking about is like what is causing harm to society, what's minimizing harm to society, and what's maximizing their autonomy for their people. People should be allowed to make these choices and choose these things to do, make them happy as long as they're not hurting other people. I think that's generally how I view things. But if you're on some Sharia mindset or whatever right now, I can understand why you would want to make some forms of masturbation or incest or whatever illegal.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Peace.
What's your next thing you're doing? Is it the JLP thing?
That's tomorrow, and then I have some videos to work on now. I've been working on Have you seen my new videos that I posted? Because you're like, oh, the old Sneako's so much better. Blah blah blah. I made this video called "How I Learned to Love the Unabomber" and this video called "Rat Race."
I felt like I tried to watch it and I saw Jewish shit popping up and I was like,
there wasn't any Jewish shit in there.
okay, maybe there was. I don't know.
How I Learned to Love the Unabomber is a good one. That's a good one. And I mentioned you in it.
All right. Well, I feel like that little debate turned weird kind of quickly. I wasn't expecting that, but I don't know. I like watching Destiny and Sneako together because I agree with both of their points. I don't know. I feel kind of weird when I listen to Destiny because he as he describes himself, more center left, and I'm more far right. So it's kind of weird because I end up agreeing with him a lot more. Even when he debates someone on the far right, I tend to end up agreeing with him to an extent. But yeah, I'll probably be watching some more videos from Destiny.